Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanisalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Nitinamine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudirayet. In this session, we'll be discussing from the 14th verse of the 13th chapter of the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Kanchit kalam athavatsit satkruto devavat sukham bhratur jeshthasya shreyaskrit sarvesham sukham avahan. The meaning of this verse is, thus Mahatma Vidura, being treated just like a godly person by his kinsmen, remained there for a certain period just to rectify the mentality of his eldest brother and in this way bring happiness to all the others. So this being said of the purpose of Vidura's visit to the palace of Yudhishthira, the Pandavas, after the battle of Kurukshetra. Why did Vidura come to the palace? So he has got a very, very important work. He stayed there just to rectify the mentality of his eldest brother Dhritarashtra. This was Vidura's purpose. So Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport very elaborately the significance of the visit of Vidura to this palace Vastinapura, and similarly the significance of the travel and the visit of saintly persons of the caliber of Vidura to the homes of householders who are generally forgetful of their spiritual responsibility in their ordinary dealings. They become absorbed materially. So for such people, it's a very important instruction here in this verse. So Srila Prabhupada says in the purport, saintly persons like Vidura must be treated as well as a denizen from heaven. What's the meaning of this? In those days, denizens of heavenly planets used to visit homes like that of Maharaj Yudhishthira, and sometimes persons like Arjuna and others used to visit higher planets. Of course, nowadays, we cannot see the Devatas even if they visit the earth planet. First of all, Devatas don't visit the earth planets in our present days because we are not engaged in so much in pious activities in Kali Yuga. Most people are not engaged in pious activities. They are busy with sense gratification for selfish interest. So Devatas are not interested in visiting such a place. And also, in former times, some persons like Arjuna could visit higher planets. Arjuna visited the heavenly planet because he was exceptionally qualified for traveling like that. Then Srila Prabhupada gives the example of Narada. Srila Prabhupada says, Narada is a spaceman who can travel unrestrictedly, not only within the material universes, but also in the spiritual universes. So Narada is a pure devotee. He has got all the mystic powers of a perfected yogi. A pure devotee has all the siddhis of a perfected yogi. So Narada can travel without the aid of a spacecraft everywhere within this universe. And he can even travel beyond the material universe to the spiritual world, to the personal abode of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In Vaikuntha and even in Goloka Vrindavana, Narada can travel. Because he is a pure devotee of the Supreme Lord Krishna. Therefore, he can travel. Now, about Narada, Srila Prabhupada says, even Narada used to visit the palace of Maharaj Yudhishthira, and what to speak of other celestial demigods. So, Devatas would visit Yudhishthira because Yudhishthira was very, very, very pious person. And not only that, he was himself a pure devotee of the Supreme Lord. So Srila Prabhupada remarks here, it is only the spiritual culture of the people concerned that makes interplanetary travel possible, even in the present body. Srila Prabhupada has written a book called Easy Journey to Other Planets. In that book, he says that in this present body, human beings who are not on the level of pure devotees, they cannot travel to upper planets in this earthly body. Not possible. They have to prepare themselves and change their bodies to actually transfer themselves to heavenly planets. Of course, if somebody practices Ashtanga Yoga and perfects the meditation process to achieve 8 kinds of siddhi, ashta siddhi, then they can travel to the higher planets. But even ashta siddhi does not qualify a yogi to go beyond the coverings of the universe. To go beyond the coverings of the universe to the spiritual sky or the spiritual planets requires that one be a pure devotee of Krishna. Only pure devotees can go even to Krishna's personal abode from this earth planet or from anywhere they can go. So they can freely travel, pure devotees. So Narada, being a pure devotee, he can travel anywhere. Maharaj Yudhishthira therefore received Vidura in the manner of reception offered to the Devatas or demigods. Further, Srila Prabhupada says, Mahatma Vidura had already adopted the renounced order of life, and therefore he did not return to his paternal palace to enjoy some material comforts. This is a very important point, that those who are in the renounced order of life, sannyasis, they should never visit any householder for enjoying a nice reception, for enjoying the comforts that the householders may offer to a saintly person or a sannyasi. No, never. So then why should they visit at all? It is explained here, Vidura accepted out of his own mercy what was offered to him by Maharaj Yudhishthira, but the purpose of living in the palace was to deliver his elder brother Dhritarashtra. This is the real purpose. Why should a sannyasi or a saintly person visit a householder? Just to deliver the householders who are otherwise absorbed in material activities. So here Srila Prabhupada says the purpose of Vidura visiting the palace and living there was to deliver his elder brother Dhritarashtra, who was too much materially attached. Dhritarashtra somehow, he was very unhappy that his sons could not succeed him. He was the caretaker king of Hastinapura, the throne in Hastinapura, the royal throne. He was sitting in Hastinapura as the emperor of the world. But after the battle of Kurukshetra, in which all his sons died in the battle, he was very unhappy that his sons could not succeed him. Though by unfair means, Duryodhana tried to kill the Pandavas, but Krishna protected the Pandavas, and Krishna's plan was something different than what Duryodhana planned or Dhritarashtra desired. So Krishna's plan ultimately is that his representatives, who are devotees, who properly represent the Supreme Lord, are meant to administer and rule this earth planet or any other planet for that matter. So Srila Prabhupada further explains how Dhritarashtra became materially attached. Dhritarashtra lost all his state and descendants in the fight with Maharaj Yudhishthira, and still, due to his sense of helplessness, he did not feel ashamed to accept the charity and hospitality of Maharaj Yudhishthira. See, Maharaj Yudhishthira is very, very conscientious that he felt compassion for Dhritarashtra. That Dhritarashtra had lost all his sons, and he was in that aggrieved state. Yudhishthira was particularly careful to comfort Dhritarashtra and Gandhari, his uncle and aunt, his father's brother and sister-in-law. To offer Dhritarashtra and Gandhari very nice facilities in the palace. So Srila Prabhupada says, on the part of Maharaj Yudhishthira, it was quite in order to maintain his uncle in a befitting manner. Yudhishthira was right in doing that. But acceptance of such magnanimous hospitality by Dhritarashtra was not at all desirable. Even though Yudhishthira offered Dhritarashtra a very nice facility to stay very comfortably, but for Dhritarashtra it was not proper. He accepted it because he thought there was no alternative. Dhritarashtra thought what else do I have? But Vidura particularly came to enlighten Dhritarashtra and to give him a lift to the higher status of spiritual cognition. Vidura came to enlighten Dhritarashtra that his last days he should not spend comfortably living in a palace, accepting all the kind hospitality of Yudhishthira. No. So Srila Prabhupada says, it is a duty of enlightened souls to deliver the fallen ones, and Vidura came for that reason. So Vidura came for the purpose of enlightening Dhritarashtra and thereby delivering him. And it will be explained in this chapter that Vidura was successful in impressing upon Dhritarashtra the importance of preparing himself to quit his body by becoming spiritually enlightened. But Srila Prabhupada further says, but talks of spiritual enlightenment are so refreshing that while instructing Dhritarashtra, Vidura attracted the attention of all the members of the family, and all of them took pleasure in hearing him patiently. Spiritual talks are always enlivening for the soul. spiritual talks, even though may be intended for particular people, but it can be enlivening for everyone, even the younger ones, or those otherwise engaged can also become attracted by spiritually enlivening talks. This is the way of spiritual realization. The message should be heard attentively, and if spoken by a realized soul, it will act on the dormant heart of the conditioned soul. If we simply hear the spiritual messages from the Bhagavatam and the Bhagavad Gita, it will work on our heart, and our heart will get transformed and purified so that we can become Krishna conscious and prepare ourselves to go back to Godhead. I'll stop here. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.